Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota, not accepting any clients. And with me today is Matt from Fuddbusters.
That's
How you
me.
doing, buddy?
I'm good. I like to bust fuds.
What is a FUD?
FUD, so that's an interesting question,
Like
right?
an Elmer FUD, right?
Yeah, so in the gun context, it's completely unrelated to the tech context, right? Which is people who spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Although they are kind of related. So in the gun context, a FUD is somebody who evokes the image of Elmer Fudd from the Looney Tunes, where they're like, "Oh, yeah, I can see you needing a gun for hunting." Right?
Hunting rabbits.
Yeah, no, it's literally like, what do you need all them bullets for? What do you think the deer's gonna wear a Kevlar? That's a FUD.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
And the thing about FUDs is they make up their own gun laws, not even by interpreting the shitload of gun laws that we have to deal with as Americans. And I don't know what the source is for FUD laws, but it's certainly not the code, right?
No.
It comes from thinking about the titles of code sections, and then they invent a bunch of bullshit, and then regulate themselves by it. And you get such fascinating things like FUDs invented the 3-step rule. Have you ever heard of that?
Okay, yes, but I don't remember what it is because I just remember that it's bullshit.
Yeah. So it depends on which state you're in, but it's really still to this day prevalent in Florida, where it's like, well, it used to be more relevant when we had concealed carry permits that mattered more for actual carrying, but it was like,
right,
how do you keep your gun in your car when you don't got a carry permit? Well, it has to be not immediately accessible for use. And instead of understanding that is a common law invocation, we're going to make up that you got to do 3 body mechanical motions to access it. That's a 3-step rule. That means in a box, who you got to sorry,
we have an addition to the stream here.
That's
Hello,
my rat.
It's me. I'm coming to you live from the fields of Nuketown on the Call of Duty game.
That is not. No.
Oh, so everyone, this is Ivan, my rat para illegal. He's who I do all of my law stuff with.
I'm wanted for gun crimes.
He sounds remarkably like Lofty Pixels.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
No one does, but
is that like some kind of sex thing?
Yes. I mean, does it sound like a gay sex thing?
Well, last time I was on here, you guys were talking about e-girls, and I wanted to blow my brains out. So I don't know.
I won't allow that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're going to talk about the whole time today.
Well, it's okay. I can make loud noises with guns in the background.
But yeah, so Ivan is my co-host on This Week in Guns, and when I found out it was going to be just you and me, I thought it would be funny if I gave him the link without saying anything.
That's good for me. I'm fine with it. I just I literally thought that this was a troll and that you sent it to Lofty Pixels because he sounds so much like Lofty.
I don't know who. So who is Lofty Pixels?
Lofty's a gay.
A gay.
Yeah, he's
Just one.
Okay. Do you know who the Quartering is?
Yes.
Yeah. So Lofty used to do his cinematic intro edits. Now he doesn't anymore. Now he just complains about I don't know, everything.
Really?
So, I don't know. He's funny and stuff, but he's just he has the shittiest takes on movies, and that in all entertainment.
Fuck movies.
That's
Fuck
real.
movies. That cuts deep, I think.
Yeah,
If you wanna be on the Titanic, you should get in the shitty submarine.
Well, they went and met all the people who were on it.
In perpetuity, in fact.
You would have to pay to meet all the deceased members of the Titanic.
I got an express ticket. But yeah, so and he's also Ivan the Troll, who if you're in the gun space and you are into 3D printed guns at all, you've probably shot one of his designs. In fact, if you've printed any guns, it's more likely than not it was based off of his work.
Cool.
He won't brag about it, so I will.
Yeah, I will not.
I've never 3D printed a gun.
Why not?
I don't have a 3D printer, mainly.
Why not?
Because I'm lazy.
Sell the alcohol and buy a printer.
I could buy a printer. That's not the issue. It's
he who has not a printer shall sell his hooch and buy one.
So it's a skill issue.
Yes. It's literally a motivation issue. It's like, I kind of want to print it, but I know it's going to happen. Like if I get a 3D printer, my kids are going to want to use it all the time to like make bullshit.
To make guns, yeah.
No,
they won't want to do that. They'll be like, Dad, I want to make this other thing from some like
shitty glove.
Yeah.
See if the warranty on the kids is still good and you can switch them out for ones that want to make guns for you.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, but how do we do that? These ones are defective. These are liberal. Give them to someone else.
I'm pretty sure you have to get rid of them before you've taken delivery in that case.
Yeah.
That's no good.
That's why, we just swapped them out in the delivery room.
Aren't these ones a little old? It's last year's model.
I've thought of a situation where you would want the like delivery room swap, right? Or someone might.
Where if you can like tell the kid's gonna be a progressive.
Black.
I was about to say
should swap this one out for one that looks like him. He can't know. It's not good.
I'd be like, can I get one of the black ones and make them light guns?
But
so a black male.
Yeah. Well, you know when you're gonna have one because they're always late. All right.
So Ivan, did you came in? He had asked me what a FUD was, and I was giving the long explanation. And the example I gave was the 3-step rule. Can you think of any other examples of FUDs making shit up?
So specifically about them making stuff up?
Yeah, FUD law.
So specifically FUD law. When it applies to guns, like one of my favorite ones, like we talked about again today, is this once a machine gun thing, where there's people who are convinced that if you use any part of a gun that used to be a machine gun, any gun you make with that is now forever and always a machine gun. When in reality, it's like a very narrow change to arms export laws that I think Bush II did, where barrels from guns that used to be machine guns can't be imported. That's all it was. And FUDs have warped this into every single part of a gun that has ever been a machine gun, imported or no, is forever. Like it forever taints whatever gun it touches with being a machine gun. When in reality, like the front sight block from an M16 and the front sight block from a Colt Sporter, identical. It's the same exact part. But people would have you believe that one of them is tainted and forever makes the gun evil.
Okay, but I have a question for you gun experts, because I'm not an expert, right? I learned from a district court judge in Illinois, and apparently from the appeals court in Illinois, that an M4 select fire M4 is the effectively identical rifle to an AR-15.
So here's the funny thing.
It's a very interesting one.
Yeah, the funny thing is he's right.
If we're speaking practically, they're like, there's like this catchy thing where it's like the military really does only train use of semi-automatic fire. Full auto fire is at least allowed, especially for troops that are more better trained. But when it comes to the utility of automatic fire, it's like maybe useful for suppression, but then suppressive fire with individual carbines, the amount of ammo you're carrying just isn't practical. That's why belt feds exist in the first place. So when it comes to when push comes to shove, in the vast majority of instances, semi-automatic fire is what you're going to be defaulting to. And I've talked with a lot of guys who, did funny stuff over in the desert, and almost across the board, they've said that if they had the choice between select fire and the best possible, like their choice of good quality semi-automatic trigger, they'd all want the semi-automatic trigger in war type scenarios.
Right.
So from a practical standpoint, there really isn't that big of a difference. From a legal distinction standpoint, there's a significant amount of law in this country that tells you there's a massive difference in the way they're regulated, treated, considered, owned, commonly possessed, etc. But when it gets down to like when we decouple the legal fiction from the way the world actually works, there really isn't a big difference at all.
And also the thing that you touched on here is you've fallen for this too. For some reason in the American right-wing pro-gun world, there's this orthodoxy that an AR-15 is a semi-automatic rifle,
which is it's
any other letters and numbers
right
is a select fire, and that's completely fucking false. And for several reasons, and this, me and Ivan like to go on Twitter and piss people off by posting pictures of fully automatic Colt AR-15s, and also you point out the fact that there is no other gun where we have this like what's
religious worship of?
Well, no, taxonomological, whatever.
Taxonomological trouble with.
Yeah. Because like you look at these guns, that like AK-74, everyone would say AK-74, right?
Yeah.
No one would, well, that's a bad example. So an AK in 7.62, everyone's just going to say AK-47. Despite the fact that the AK-47 is a very narrow model range and in its original configurations was only ever select fire, they're not going to say, RAS 47 or like Wasser 10, right, when referring to the specific gun. No, they just refer to it as an AK because you can trace its lineage to that. And it's also, the utility of language. You know what the fuck you're talking about when you say the word. But when you put it in an AR that's so here's a great thing that I did, and it's the opposite of the ship of Theseus problem. It's the gun of Theseus. So I took a M16A1.
Real quick. If you don't know the ship of Theseus, the idea is that when a ship stops being its original self, because you can replace like one board at a time on a ship. Yeah. Just for the audience who may not be cultured.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you for that.
No problem. Anytime.
So, all of the parts that I had were marked M16A1. They were issued in Vietnam as an M16A1. They stayed over there as an M16A1. And then at some point, the lower receiver was cut up. And all of the parts were sent over here where I got them. And I put them right back together with a new lower receiver that I made and marked M16A1 with all of the same markings. The only difference is it is missing 4 tiny parts. So it's now semi-automatic only. And I posted a picture and I said, this is blah, blah, blah. What would you call this gun and why? And of course, people were like, AR-15. It's like, why? Right?
Why?
It's everything about this gun is M16A1, but it's missing 4 pieces. So it's like the gun of Theseus, where if you take away, it would be as if the ship of Theseus problem was, it's no longer the ship of Theseus if you take the bell off.
Yeah. Right. Or you remove like the locks from 2 doors or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's different.
Doors back then? It was a long time ago. Had they invented doors?
Yeah, I feel like they had to have.
No, doors are a modern Semitic conspiracy.
I think George Washington Carver made doors.
But yeah, if you're one of those people who say, actually, that's an AR-15, just fuck yourself.
I mean, it's easy. Like if you look at the history, right? the AR-15 was designed as a select fire rifle at the request of the military for a prospective military contract.
Yeah.
It
Not a
was then-
single one was made.
Not a single semi-automatic version was made by Armalite. So when you say, oh, it stands for Armalite rifle, every single one Armalite ever made was a select fire rifle that was trying to be accepted for a military contract. They didn't succeed. They had Colt started manufacturing guns, and then eventually Colt bought the patent rights. Colt was then making select fire rifles, trying to get military contracts, and they succeeded in some of this and eventually got the U.S. military contract. But the AR-15 would be bought by the Air Force, issued by the Air Force. There would be 1,000 of them sent to Vietnam for combat testing, and this all took place before a single semi-automatic civilian version ever came to exist. So when you have a semi-automatic AR-15 and you call it an AR-15, I agree, right? That's what it is. It's just a semi-automatic variant of the AR-15.
Right.
But that is no less egregious or a fault of gun taxonomy than having a semi-automatic M16 and saying this is an M16, because both of their sort of original overarching families were select fire rifles, and semi-automatic variants of them that have all of the sort of individual features or criteria to fit inside of that umbrella. It's all there, but for select fire. So what do you call it? I'd call it a semi-automatic variant of what it is.
Yeah.
I'm really mad at you, Matt, for bringing taxonomy and taxonomological into this stream. I've never heard that word so often said in such a short span of time, and I will never forgive you for it. But I have to get back to the other question, though, because I get what you're saying with the practicality. We're going to circle back like Jen Psaki. The practicality of the select fire basically being almost a full-time single fire semi-automatic function, right? But there is this one difference, and that is the select fire option, which has made it a distinguishing characteristic since what, 1980s? No, when was
34?
34, yeah, right, right.
But it's
And
not
so-
a principal distinction, and it wasn't a principal distinction in 34, and they recognized it as such. And in 34, when you look at the congressional, the hearings, they all said, granted, if we actually banned these, that would be a blatant violation of the Second Amendment. And then in 86, we just went, like, who cares anymore?
Well, because that was the funny thing about Miller, US v. Miller. They said that, like, these are not the type of guns Congress has the power to regulate.
Yeah.
And then they did, and then they're like,
Miller was a particularly insane case, and it's interesting that anyone would consider that holding any weight, because that's like some like textbook old US law where it really seems like anything would go and people could just say stuff and make it up, because there wasn't an internet and nobody would actually learn about what happened anyway. So judges could just write something that's like, the outcome that favors me best is the constitutional one because I like it.
Yeah.
right.
But
I can't. I want
wait,
Miller
hold
to
on.
be
Let's
challenged. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Let's finish this, because this is all related to the Illinois thing, right?
Yes.
So the Illinois judge basically wanted to couch their terms in saying, if what you're saying is true, then that would mean everybody could have the machine gun. And it's like, actually,
I'm glad you said so.
yeah, I mean, I was getting there, but if you want this train to skip a few stops, we can. So, but the funny thing is when you look at the logic, right, underlying the series of decisions that we've got up to now, that is the logical termination. And I don't think it's a parade of horribles. But I do understand to the like average, 5'8" soy ingesting little bitch that seems like a terrifying result, right?
Yeah, it's so weird because since Heller and McDonald, the most protected type of firearm is just a handgun, right? Like handguns are recognized somehow. Scalia is like, well, the Second Amendment's really about handguns for self-defense. It's like, well, no, not. I mean, not actually, but okay. That's where we are right now, and so that is the most protected type of handgun. And incidentally, it is the highest cause of fatalities by a fucking mile.
Yeah.
It's not even close. It's something like, if we're going with homicides that are not suicides or accidents, you've got what, 8 to 10,000 a year, and something like 500 or less of them are by rifle.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are handguns. And it's like, well, this is the protected one, which I agree with, but they're like, well, if people had access to machine guns, that would change dramatically. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? No,
Yeah,
it
no, it
wouldn't.
didn't. So yeah, here's the best part. A lot of people don't know this. This is going to make you look like the smartest guy in the room out there. But the NFA, when it was passed in 34, machine guns were not a primary target. In fact, in the drafting stages, they only wanted to narrowly target the Thompson because it was a gang appreciated aesthetic symbol of power. They even, like, the way they drafted it was specifically trying to get around the other machine guns that were on the market, because they said those do not pose an issue. And frankly, like that.
Right. And this is after the Valentine's Day massacre. Yeah. This thanks to you, by the way. So I teach high schoolers various law classes at our homeschool co-op every year. And this year I picked like 4 major controversial lines of Supreme Court cases. And one of them is Second Amendment. Because I figure all these kids are basically super conservative Christian, and they're almost entirely pro-gun, like from the onset, but they're going to go to college after they're done homeschooling, and they're going to run into assholes, and they're going to want to argue with them. So I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you the history of how we got to where we are, and then I'm going to help you know their arguments along with your own arguments. But that's the big thing, is showing the other side. But one of the things I did was contextualize the whole purpose of these firearm regulations was really, it's a PR move. The Valentine's Day massacre was this very scary event. For some reason, it's like, wait, are you guys mobsters? Because if you're not mobsters, you weren't on the wall. Like, it's like people who are worried about the murder rate in Chicago. It's like, well, are you a drug dealer on the south side of Chicago? Because like, if not, you have a pretty good chance of living. If you're a drug dealer on the south side, like, it depends on what you do.
Right.
But if you weren't a mobster, you probably weren't going to get killed by a Thompson machine gun most of the time. But they had to do something because it made the news. This is a big event. And then that also puts pressure on courts. And the Supreme Court's supposed to be above that, but they never fucking are. They're never above this. And that's why we see so much reporting around mass shootings whenever there's a Supreme Court potential gun case. I mean, while Bruen was pending, the news about mass shootings was non-fucking stop.
Oh, it still is, right? We've had 429,000 mass shootings just this year alone. The interesting thing, though, again, back in 34, they were trying to just target the Thompson gun. What they were really trying to target was handguns, because guess what the most likely weapon you're going to use is going to be? It's going to be the most affordable one that has high functionality and high portability, right? So they were specifically focused on handguns and the purpose of the NFA was, and it's all there, it's in black and white in all of the hearings. The idea was, they're concerned that they have these, runners, right? These runners going over state lines, so the local police they have nothing they can get them with, right? And the feds have nothing they can get them with, because we're dealing with like state level offenses, right? But what if they go over the line and all we had to prove was that they had a gun? Because moving interstate with an NFA weapon without a permission slip, that's an independent offense. So we can just get them on that, and it'll be easy. And so that was like the whole fucking thing. And then there was a carve out for this and a carve out for that. And of course, because back then nobody was checking on anything, the final law wound up being a complete upside down abortion. But it was never supposed to be enforced against anybody but a whiskey runner anyway, right? So
yeah, it's almost pretextual.
Yeah. And then we wind up, and then today we're dealing with this, and it's like this whole like, the ATF is going to regulate your pistol because it's too big if you put an accessory on it to make it more shootable, because it's more concealable now, but not as concealable as the thing that Heller specifically said that you can have, right? Like, it makes no sense. The like modern obsession with I don't even know what to call it. Everything but the handgun ignores the fact that the handgun is like the obvious choice for almost any illicit purpose.
Right. And it got I would have. The funny thing is Scalia again in Heller, Scalia created this fucking mess, or codified this fucking mess in 08 in Heller. And he's talking about the handgun as like an ideal self-defense weapon, which in some cases, yes, but Heller was specifically about a gun in the home,
Right.
where it's actually probably not an ideal self-defense weapon if you consider something like a shotgun or even an AR would, well, depending on the type of density of the housing you've got.
Shotguns are gay. Shotguns are gay.
An Auto 5 with Dragon's Breath is the only sane choice for home defense.
Wait, isn't that AA-12's pretty cool? I want one of those.
Yeah, except they don't exist. They don't reel.
Oh, they're not real?
Well,
well, the AA-12 is a terribly interesting story, and Mr. Fuddbusters here has a video on his YouTube channel that sort of tells the actual, like behind the scenes, the actual history of the gun, and it's a fascinating story. It's one of those things where like you hear about, especially in the gun community, right? Things end up being vaporware all the time, where it seems like this gun's cool and it's in every movie and TV show and video game. Then it turns out that like maybe only 20 of them ever existed, and then guess what? They weren't actually produced and they don't work.
Right.
Oh, that's stupid. Because the video about them is really fucking cool. It shoots a little missile that explodes at a certain range. Like, whoa, that's awesome. I want one of those immediately. I'll go win the whole war. We won't need the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023.
Yeah.
Just give me one AA-12. I'll fix it all.
Well, I've got the parts kit for one. So,
and helicopters and Battlefield using them, so it's got to be good.
You know, we're gonna put them on. Do you remember the articles saying that like they had made these robots to use them on Mars or some shit because like they're uniquely suited because of the zero recoil?
Yeah, that's how those work.
Yeah, it's like that's what we need in space, a cartridge that like hasn't changed since 1880.
I love how they do that. They do the thing. They're like, well, if you're in space and you shoot a gun, the bullet stays and you go. I'm like, nope. That's not a thing. That's not how that works.
It depends.
Why not? It'd be funny if that's how it worked.
It's like, all relativity. Maybe that bullet is the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Everything else revolves around that bullet.
Like, yeah, if you fire in the opposite direction, it'll launch you one way. It's like, no.
It's
like
bullet theory.
There's still a competing amount of mass for an explosive to deal with. And that explosive is a fluid, and that force will ricochet off of one mass and go the other way.
It's a propellant.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Okay. You know what? Fuck you. Okay.
The flagration, not an explanation.
Yeah, it's a confounder. It's a confounder.
Well, here's my problem, though. Can you talk about you're more of an expert on this than me, who's not an expert. So the appeals court does uphold the shitty semi-automatic rifle ban in Illinois, and then they petition for cert from the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says no, we're not going to take it, which means that the law stands. So right now, the semi-automatic rifle ban in Illinois is quote unquote good law. It's going to remain in place. To me, it looks like it flagrantly violates Bruen. I don't see how it comports with Bruen. And the reasoning of the district court, which is the reasoning of the appeals court, is that this group of firearms is not even considered by the Second Amendment. Like these are not arms under the Second Amendment is their ruling, which I cannot for the fucking life of me figure out how you get to the conclusion of these are not arms considered by the Second Amendment. Like what? Where is the distinction even being made? That's
just been the argument. It's I don't know, Ivan.
It's been the anti-gunner cop out since Bruin's been a thing. Is that Bruen very clearly says, and I think the strongest thing in Bruen is that it says clearly that if arms are implicated, it's presumptively protected. I think that's incredibly strong and it's very succinct. And the problem is it's devastating for especially like arms ban cases where they come out of the gate saying these are the arms we're banning. And the only way these laws survive, Bruen, right? If your threshold step is, are these arms? If yes, text history and tradition. The only way these laws stand up is if they don't let it get past the threshold of is it arms. So these courts act all sorts of confused, like the hardest thing they've ever had to consider is, oh, what is an arm? Is a semi-automatic rifle an arm? I'm so confused. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here.
And certainly the founders would. Certainly, the founders would have drawn a distinction between types of firearms,
right,
which have arms as the root word.
Yeah.
The appeals court was in the weird position of starting their brief saying, you know, at one end we have man-portable nuclear weapons. Those clearly can't be arms. I don't know that I agree. And then on the other end, we have stuff that's obviously an arm, like semi-automatic handguns, like Heller was about. And then they go on to say that military semi-automatic handguns like the SIG 320, which is interesting because the 320 was designed for the civilian market and then adopted by the military. It was one of those guns that did that is clearly a military handgun. But then they don't say that 320s are supposed to be banned the way ARs are banned. I don't know. The whole thing is like contradictory multiple times. And I guess just as like a well, actually point, as the thing that the Supreme Court just denied was an emergency injunction, waiting for the answer to if the Seventh Circuit would take this case en banc, and then they didn't, and so the Supreme Court denied it. Now it seems like that same group, NAGR, whose acronym you can't say on live streams because it sounds funny.
Wait, what is it?
National Association for Gun Rights.
Oh, the naggers.
Yeah, the naggers. So they're going to be doing another appeal, and it's going to be an actual appeal. They keep saying it's on the merits, but it's not really on the merits. It's like on the merits of the actual injunction. So they're appealing the decision on the preliminary injunction itself to the Supreme Court instead of asking for an emergency. I don't know. Legal procedures are so stupid and awful,
especially when you cock them up like that.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, and I don't know that it's necessarily entirely their fault. It's just like the way that timing worked out is like they're going to have to go and brief the whole thing again, and it can just be a copy paste of the briefs that they'd already filed. So they are going to try it again. So this case will drag on for a little bit longer in the preliminary stage before. Again, I doubt the Supreme Court gets involved because they seem to be fine with, at the preliminary stage, everybody just crapping all over everything they have to say about guns, and then they'll get to it in another couple of years.
Well, one of the articles I read went with the whole, there's not a circuit split yet. So the Supreme Court isn't primed to take it up. I just think the Supreme Court's a bitch.
The tricky thing with the circuit split question, well, so there's a circuit split insofar as how circuits are getting to these decisions. I guess post Bruen, this would be the first one really, but the problem with the whole circuit split thing is that the circuits that the circuits that would uphold, I guess so the circuits that would leave an injunction in place against an assault weapons ban are never going to have assault weapons bans in front of them. Like the one exception might be Colorado. We may see Colorado end up giving us that split, but otherwise it's just so unlikely. And so then sort of the ace in the hole becomes, out of Maryland, they're having their assault weapons ban. And it's now been 1 year that we've been waiting for the opinion, which is hilarious. Circuit courts shouldn't be able to wait a year on constitutional questions because we all know what you're doing. They're making sure that, please, some other court give us some way to weasel out of this, please.
Right.
And or they're waiting to be able to take it en banc immediately and then reverse the decision that they know they're going to have to make so that they can stall just a little bit longer and hope the composition of the Supreme Court changes or the Supreme Court changes their mind altogether. So it's awful that they get to continue to get away with dragging their feet for an entire year.
Yeah, no,
like I'm slow, right? But like I could like copy paste a bunch of stuff from Westlaw in a year and like get a pretty good opinion put together. I could be a good law clerk.
I mean, I feel like, and I'm understating this, but it's not that far off. There's only fucking 4 or 5 Supreme Court cases on the Second Amendment, like as like an actual, as landmark cases. You don't have to go that far to write a brief. And the best part is that Bruen is so straight out, like if it's arms, it's presumptively infringing, says shall not be infringed, has to comport with a historical tradition. The historical tradition is kind of an open question. Does that mean 1791? Does it mean 1866 or 1868 or whenever the 14th was passed? But either way, I mean, you're still not looking at some broad array of restrictions. The funniest thing to me is that any restrictions that seem to have an actual historical tradition would be barred by the 14th other section.
Right. It's like
Because it would
Italians
just be like,
Italians
no-
can't carry these sorts of things.
Right. No blacks either because we own
Yeah.
them. It's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, we really don't want them to get guns because they might decide to come after us.
Yeah, they might want to not be owned anymore. That would be weird.
Isn't that what
Reagan
Reagan did in
helped.
California?
Huh?
Didn't Reagan implement gun restrictions as governor of California because of the Black
No,
Panthers?
it was because the Black Panthers were like, fine, police, if you won't take care of our neighborhoods, we'll just buy these guns.
So there
He
is a
was like,
historical
"Whoa!"
there is a historical tradition of stopping the blacks from owning guns. Oh my! But that's the only one. Like, because I think we talked about this one of the first times you were on. You had gone through a historical analysis, and this is before Bruen.
Yeah.
You had gone through and you're like, I cannot find any restrictions on firearms. And you had even gone to like advertisements and stuff that were advertising for children to like buy like the family gun while they're in town doing the shopping or whatever. And it's it's wild to think of the world we used to live in versus the world people believe exists in any fantasy history.
And I had found a ad for like that ran as late as 1910, advertising, grenades fused and filled, ready to be delivered immediately.
Mail order frags.
Yeah, but it's completely ridiculous. But I will say, as somebody who does have to write briefs in gun cases, it becomes very hard to write them just because you're dealing with circuit courts that want desperately for the Supreme Court to have said something else.
Right.
So the simple fact is Bruen's unqualified command is if it implicates the usage of arms, you have to engage in a historical analysis. And district courts and circuit courts are desperate to just not do that. So they're like, so that's how you get to the it's not arms cop out, right? Because that's an easy cop out of just like, I've sidestepped the whole analysis. I don't have to find a historical analog if it's not an arm. And in fact, in a district court case that a high profile case that I worked on, the judge simply said, I'm just not convinced that I have to engage in a Second Amendment analysis. And then like that was it.
Well, I don't know if you can talk about. Can you talk about that case or no? Is it the one
Sure.
I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it is.
The Autoseer card case. That's
The auto key card case, which we're on appeal now, and I'm working with, we're doing a joint briefing basically, or at least we're talking about it. But yeah, that's before the 11th Circuit, and I think I was the first person post Bruen to invoke it in a criminal trial. And I straight up said, hey, look, it's what the law says is straight up. The government has the burden to prove this type of regulation.
Especially because in that case, they're literally calling it an arm, right?
Yeah.
Like they're saying it's a regulable arm under the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act. So they're saying this is a machine gun in effect. And now, am I assuming correctly that when they do that, they're relying on Chevron to make that?
No.
The ATF is okay. So enlighten me on how they. So to the chat, I know a lot of you know this. Chevron deference is the idea that a 3-letter agency has various levels of expertise, and the Supreme Court will defer to their expertise when they effectively label something that is not expressly considered under the law as that thing. And the reason it came up is because Chevron, a petroleum products company, could in theory create a chemical byproduct that is slightly different and therefore would avoid regulation. So if they say, well, this is essentially the same thing with like maybe a different isotope or something, it's still the same fucking thing. Like you have delta 8, 9, 10
right.
THCs. That's what they wanted Chevron to be used for. Well, of course, I would have suggested that ATF would use Chevron to recategorize something that's like one tube with no moving parts as a machine gun, like a suppressor. You're saying it's not Chevron that they're relying on. What are they relying on?
No, because they're saying that the law is unambiguous. Right.
Oh,
yeah.
So they're saying that even though the law like lays out what specifically a machine gun is,
So Chevron only comes in place when there's an ambiguity.
right?
So, and the government has been desperate not to invoke Chevron just because they know it's fucked.
Yeah,
so
Chevron's
they're-
just on the chopping block.
Yeah, so they're saying no. This is what the law has always said.
Right.
And so, and this, for those guys who don't know, we're talking about the auto key card case where my client was charged with talking about drawings on a piece of stainless steel. The drawings were not cut all the way through. They were a thou or two deep on a stainless steel business card. And my guy isn't even the one who was advertising them. Isn't the one who was making them. It was Matt Hoover. He's a YouTuber.
He ran an ad.
Yeah, he ran an ad,
channel.
paid ad.
That's
So
the
that's-
worst. That's the most fucking crazy part of his case specifically.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when it came up, so he gets arrested and then Bruen drops. And so we're like, yo, hey, right. We did the notice of, of updated authority. And then I was like, hey, you got to, I moved to dismiss the indictment because it violated the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, right? A lot of different things. And I laid out, it says that when arms are implicated, there's no more two-step analysis. You have to engage and find a historically analogous law. And there is no way that the government can prove a historical tradition of and this was the hardest part of writing that motion, a historical tradition of what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing here? Yeah. And I think I wrote it as of claiming a drawing of an object is regulable as the object itself, that being
you know what? I think you're being unfair. I think you're being you have to look for a historical analog. The historical analog does not have to be perfect under Bruen because that's impractical. It's a lithograph carving. It's not a drawing. There is, it may only be like 1,000th of a millimeter or whatever, but technically some asshole could have taken a piece of wax and scraped it.
Yeah. But to do what? But anyway, so, and the judge's response to this was basically, Bruen says that there's no more two-part tests, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at all of these pre-Bruen cases, they said that the NFA didn't violate the Second Amendment. And so it's obviously that it doesn't violate the Second Amendment.
Which is insane. It's
that's basically, and I brought that up 8 times. I was like, hey, whenever there's any, because it took forever to actually get a ruling on my motion to dismiss the indictment. Is there any other open matters? I was like, the government still hasn't been asked to demonstrate historically analogous. Right.
It's such a wild thing because it's like you just said, all these cases that predate Bruen say that it complies, but it's but Bruen requires all of these cases to effectively be back on the block,
right? Under
clear direction from the court, which has now issued a clarifying ruling on how to analyze gun cases. The biggest complaint people seem to have with Scalia's opinion in Heller, and then the effective rubber stamping of McDonald, which basically just said also outside your house, was all that was. But the problem was that there was no scrutiny or analysis test that was clearly defined by the court. So we had Miller, and which didn't have a test at all, other than is it a machine gun kind of?
No, Miller. So Miller was actually about a sawn-off shotgun,
right?
And the test there was the test that was announced in Miller. Fascinatingly, was is it useful for malicious service? And the Miller court said, no, they don't use shotguns in the military, despite, the little Genevas that we did.
That whole thing where it became like a global incident.
Right.
What'd you put in them? Well, we dipped screws in shit and loaded them into shells and then just shot them at people so they die of sepsis. Oh, well, that sounds gross.
Whoa, did you win the war though? Yes.
We
Space.
did, but people got mad about it.
It's okay. If I was losing, I'd be mad too.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like all of those cases prior to Bruen would engage in the most fucked up interest balancing to where it's just like it's entirely worthless to cite them for any purpose because you might get bits of analysis that but they're really just dicta, right? If you are operating
Right.
if you are engaging in an analysis from the perspective of I can do what I want because the government can prove that it's really scared.
Yes.
It's fucking worthless. It's entirely worthless. It's built on a foundation of shit.
Yeah, it's weird. I was talking about this the other night, like the actual narrowness of Supreme Court rulings. Because we always say, oh, well, the Supreme Court ruling means X, Y, or Z. And it's always these like sweeping things. But the reality is the majority of Supreme Court rulings mean exactly what the issue they're dealing with from the district court is most of the time, unless you're talking about Marbury versus Madison, which meant a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
But usually it's like, well, and this is the Heller problem. I mean, Heller was literally was he a retired cop or just off? He was a active cop, but he was off duty because it's at his house.
He was
right?
a security guard.
Oh, he's a security guard who has a firearm assembled and loaded in his house when the law in DC says it had to have either a trigger lock or it
here's
had
the
to be
thing about
disabled.
Heller, and the reason Dick Heller, who is a really, really hilarious guy, and I think he might have been some flavor of ex-cop or something. I don't know. It was weird.
I think he was
but the
law
only reason
enforcement
he
at
was
some point.
the only reason that he remained the plaintiff is because he was the only person that was hard-headed enough to actually try to apply to get the permit and get denied.
Right.
Because no one else bothered because it was a foregone conclusion. And that's why there was a lot of plaintiffs on the Heller case, and they all got kicked off under standing because Heller was the only one that actually went and tried to do it.
Is standing bullshit?
Yes.
Thank God. I was going to have to ban you from the stream.
No, Article 3 was a fucking mistake. Like,
The worst standing argument.
Standing isn't even in Article 3. It just says cases and controversies, and then they
Yeah.
created standing as a fiction because of how they structured the court.
yeah.
Fucking damn it.
The standing argument that I think it was New York brought it up most recently, where they're like, yeah, but we haven't, you can't prove that we were gonna enforce this aspect of the law. Like, in any law that's prospective or about to happen, or even that has gone into effect, but there just isn't an arrest yet. States shouldn't be able to say, hey, we haven't arrested anybody with this law yet, so there's no standing. Because if you're defending it in court, if you're defending it there, you clearly intend to, right?
Yeah.
That's the most nonsense bullshit standing argument I can imagine, is like, oh yeah, we have this axe dangling over your head, but you can't prove we're about to drop it.
Oh God, I
Unless-
dealt with that in my pistol brace case.
Unless they've enforced similar restrictions on you specifically in the past, like the Colorado
Right.
Baker, whatever, like he had standing, even though he hadn't been specifically arrested yet. But it's like, well, I'm gonna like they did it before, they're gonna do it again. Can we just fix this shit?
So
But,
that was a funny thing because I brought one of the pistol brace lawsuits, and when we were going for a preliminary injunction, and the government is like saying there's like basically arguing, like hitting their head on every branch. Oh well, they don't have like a reasonable threat of whatever, and the way it pans out is the judge is like, well, is there any pending enforcement action against them? We're not aware of that. Okay, well, are you willing to like stipulate that you will not enforce it against them? Is that like trying to get out of issuing a preliminary injunction in some way? And of course, the government's just like, no.
Now-
like,
We don't know if we're gonna do it.
Will you agree not to? No.
No. Like we might have to.
What if
Well,
we
are
want
you gonna?
to?
I hate standing. I hate latches. This is way off topic.
Latches
and
is less stupid than standing.
it can be less stupid than standing, except when latches is a fucking bullshit stand-in for standing, like the election cases.
Yeah.
But did you see? Okay, so this is way off topic, and you may not have. I don't know, but you may not have any opinion on this at all. But did you see in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case, Trump tried to invoke presidential immunity, and they rejected his because president. I don't think that Trump likely has presidential immunity in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case, but that said, they didn't analyze whether or not he had it. They said he took too long to raise the issue of presidential immunity, effectively a laches defense or a laches dismissal. And I'm like, wait, but presidential immunity means the court doesn't actually have jurisdiction because of the separation of powers. So like there can't be a time barred waiver. Like you can't waive your immunity because the court doesn't just get power over the executive because he waited too long. Like you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest fucking thing. That just drove me nuts the other day. Cause like I get the idea of latches, like, well, you drug this out, you caused him so much harm that now we're just gonna say, you know what, fuck you. Like you're clearly trying to cause some issues here and you don't get to do that. So we're going to say, no, too bad. You let the burden go too long and now it needs to be remedied. That makes sense in normal civil cases. But in an issue of immunity that relies on separation of powers, you literally can't do a latches style denial. Like it can't work because they don't have the power to do it in the first place. So that was really fucking weird to me. It just pissed me off.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we should beat them up. But no, I have and then people, of course, you're gonna get some of. I'm sure you're like, LSAT preparing, fucking prospective 1Ls in the chat are probably like, if you didn't have standing, there would be a flood of litigation. Guess what? It's already a flood of litigation, you fucking idiot. It's not getting any worse.
The natural barrier to litigation is very simple. Do you right now have $15,000 for a retainer for a very small case? And for a very big case, one that might have a standing or latches issue, do you right now have $50,000 for retainer to Kaplan? Like, because if you don't have that, you're not getting no one's going to court. There is no like George goes to Washington bullshit anymore. That's gone, or Mr. Smith or whatever. That's gone. We don't have that system. It's too expensive. The lawyers are able to charge too much. We are too scarce of a commodity. And the law of economics says that lawyers of any capacity in a metro area can charge as a first and second year attorney $300 an hour. And getting into fifth year and up attorneys, the sky is the limit in major metro areas. You're talking about attorneys charging easily $900 an hour plus if they have any notoriety, if they're at any sizable firm. And also because the firms are taking a huge fucking cut off of that $900 an hour. So that attorney's not getting anywhere near that. But that's the bar to the flood of litigation. No one can fucking afford this shit.
Yeah.
And yet everybody still seems to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Or you can focus on gun law and then you won't get paid shit.
No, yeah, you won't. You should do gun laws and celebrity DUIs.
So exciting.
We want a pre-indictment plea agreement. Again, yes, they will show up again on fucking Sesame Street. Just give them the letter N. Okay, guys, I have a major announcement. This is actually breaking news. This is very important. It is now officially my birthday where I live. So thank you.
Your birthday.
I'm 42, which is, that's pretty cool. How old are you guys? Like, you're younger than me. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 31.
I'm 13.
Hold on. Matt, We need to talk.
What?
Bring it 13. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Just kidding. I'm 13 and a half.
Oh, okay. Now that's fine. That's above the age of consent in Afghanistan, so it's okay.
old enough to smoke crack or whatever.
I don't know, but now in New Afghanistan,
Oh my God.
the Taliban isn't big on that boy love stuff. That was I think that was like the whole issue that they had with what we were doing over there.
Actually, Afghanistan, from what I heard, Afghanistan and Iran, they both have tons of NAMBLA meetings. They're all on the rooftop gardens of buildings over 26 stories. They're like, come, wear tight clothing, not baggy clothing. You full fist. Here, let me read a couple of these chats that I've been waiting on. AG Cass says, Matt is cool.
That's fact.
That's true. I read that online once.
I went to school and they taught me that there.
You bribed that guy. Billdozer 74 says Leighton gayer than staffers in the Senate. Dude, okay, so I told Matt before the show, because he messaged me, he's like, hey, I'm backstage. I was like, I'm almost home. It's a long story. Guys, I'm gonna tell you the long story right now. I'm married. There you go. It's a long fucking story. I'm like, Lady Raggets, I really need to get, sweetheart, please. I love you, but I need to get home. I have a show starting and I can't get there in time. Can we please get in the car and go right now? She's like, I'm looking at stuff. I'm like, I need to go right now. Here we go. Oh shit. Jessica Reloaded says, happy birthday, Fig Newton. Oh, thank you. I don't like Fig Newtons though. They're weird.
I like Fig Newtons. Do you like figs?
I don't eat figs typically.
Well,
do you like the dried figs or do you like undried figs?
I like eating whole ass figs. I also like that out in nature, figs require a specific wasp in order to like make more figs. They're fig wasps. Yeah, and
wait, wasps?
Yeah, so like
a
fig is actually an inverted flower.
Okay.
And what happens out in nature is like, and there's a lot of different types of fig plants, right? But the like OG figs, in order to spread their pollen and shit, there are these microscopic wasps that go into the fig, make their little wasp colony, reproduce there, and then their offspring have to go out to find another fig tree and lay their nest again. And you can eat the fig because the like chemicals as the fig develops just completely evaporates the wasp and their microscopic wasps anyway. And here's the best part. Each species of fig tree that is so pollinated has its own correlating fig wasp that cannot go to other figs. So there's like 1-to-1 fig and fig wasp. And it's like, how did they get here? Which one came first? But all I know is I believe in God, and God he went through a lot of trouble to make us able to eat upside down flowers.
The wasp came first.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know, man.
The fig complained about it, but the wasp came first. It's like, when's it my turn? I don't give a shit. What the fuck? That's the most complicated thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and you can go and like if you find a fig in the wild, you go and you eat it. You are eating a bunch of like wasp carcass, but it's all dissolved. You will never taste it. You will never notice the wasps.
I will never taste that because I don't eat figs in the wild.
You should eat figs.
Why?
They're good. And look at all of the work look at all of the like. I know that he is omnipotent, but God had to sit and think about how to make that function. An inverted flower, you had to make that work.
He must not have liked those wasps, though. Like, it's kind of asshole-ish to them, right? Like, he's like, I can fuck these guys over.
But they get to eat fig juice for their whole little tiny miserable life.
His assistant sitting there was like taking notes. Okay, what are we going to do with this wasp? He's like, well, first off, it's microscopic. Well, that's rude. Yeah, I know. Short king, am I right? He's like, well, how's it gonna find a mate? It's not. It's just gonna go in this fucking fig, and it's gonna root around in there. like a midget with a fucking porn star. It's like, that's like a toddler spelunking. And he's going to just sit there, and eventually he's just going to spray the inside of this fig, and a bunch of other wasps are going to be born, which is weird. And then they're going to go out and they're going to be like, oh, we can go on our own. And nope. You're off. Your ancestors locked you into this type of fig. It's like, but this is ugly and fat. Too bad. You got to go find one anyway. It's like being born in Detroit. Same thing. You don't want to do this. It's not fair to that species, man.
Except instead of their ancestors, it's the government. The government bred you inbred.
I'm gonna live in this upside down flower.
Why'd you take all our dads? So you have to find the same fig flower, you assholes.
Yeah.
God, what a government's such a bitch.
I hate the government.
It's weird. It's weird. Chris Way says kids' toy, Legos, college Legos, PC rigs, adult Legos, guns, and houses.
Houses are gay.
They really are.
Yeah.
Like
Gun's correct though.
houses are
good.
houses are cool in concept, and then when you own one, you're like, I gotta fix fucking everything all the time.
Yeah, you never really think about that until you own a house. Is just how desperately the nature wants it to not be there. Everything is constantly trying to reclaim it.
It's trying to grow over it. So you gotta hire like someone to come and cut that all down, or you have to do it, which is a disaster because you're not good at this. People don't realize. You're like, oh yeah, well, mow a lawn or whatever. It's like, oh, that has landscaping. Like, well, what does that mean? Well, like when you mowed your lawn, like you mowed the lawn, but then you have to have like an edger. And you have to go around. You have to trim all this shit, and you have to like go around bricks and stuff. And then there's like different levels of stuff, and you have to carry things which are heavy. It's like, you don't want to do this. I promise you, you don't want to do this. And you're like, no, this will be easy. I mowed a lawn before. Yeah, everybody mowed a fucking lawn, you idiot. But you didn't have to do all the rest of the shit. Or maybe you did. And if you did, why would you want to do it again? So you're going to hire someone to do it, and they're going to charge you more than it's worth. But you're like, God, I just don't want to do it though.
Yeah, it's worth not doing it. But then, even when you do your landscaping, then you come to find out that the entire chemical composition of the atmosphere is trying to fuck your shit up. It's trying to mold it, and it's just rotting, and like, it's awful.
And then if you have a dog, it goes out and it pisses, and then all of a sudden you have this spot that it murdered it like genocided an area of your grass. It's like, why would you do that? Why does that? Dogs pee everywhere. I don't see these spots. Well, but on your lawn though, you're done. Why? Well, because it's a female dog and they have hormones. They ruin everything. Pony Up says, so Bethesda must have based the designs of Starfield's guns on descriptions from the court then, because all those caseless cartridges still leave cases. Wait, do they have caseless guns in Starfield or something? And then
they call like half the ammo in the game caseless, and the guns still eject cases. So whatever, it's not a big deal.
Why do they eject cases?
Because
Bethesda.
Attention to detail. Yeah.
Cool. Matthew Self says, happy gay day, rackets. Now Lost Plane latches versus standing to the interwebs. Also, cheers to you, good sir. Standing is the idea that you have to have a particularized injury. Which comes from the language of a case or controversy under Article 3. But you have to have a particularized injury, which means you can't have a generalized injury, which is why if all voters or all taxpayers are fucked, no individual voter or taxpayer has a particularized injury, which means that the government can literally create unconstitutional and unfair tax law. So long as it fucks everybody over equally, you will not have injury for it. Therefore, you will not have standing, which is why also individual voters had no grounds to, or have no grounds to sue over a stolen election. For example, you can't because you're just a voter, and every other voter is similarly situated. Even if they got the result that they want, you're not particularly injured because you had no interest that's protectable in the outcome of an election. So standing is that issue. Do you have an injury that is particular to you? Latches is different. Latches is you have waited in some way too long to bring an issue to the court, and to now resolve the issue through court would be unduly burdensome to the defendant, because the concept is, if you have let something go on so long now that it has maybe built up cost and value over time, and now you bring it to the court's like, well, if you had brought this right away, it would be reasonable to deal with. Now it's unreasonable to deal with. So that's the latches issue. That's the summary of the difference between them. But they both have their place in concept. Latches, like you said, I do agree that latches is better when we're talking about just regular civil issues.
Yeah.
But they're both used inappropriately all the time, because that's when a court just goes, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. It's
I
like
have an out.
gamesmanship dog shit. Like, and standing is I hate standing. I viciously and furiously hate it. Like, and that was something I even remember in my high school government class when they, briefly talked about standing. It's like, well, yes, that's why you just can't sue as a taxpayer. And everyone's like, wait, why? Right? And a bunch of high school students are like, why? But the courts, right? Because it wasn't in the Constitution.
None of this stuff ever is. This is God, we don't want to deal with this.
Like, why would you and they've specifically shat on the concept of taxpayer standing. I feel like that is one thing that everybody should be able to agree on, is that taxpayer standing should be a thing.
Yes, that is the government unjustly taking your stuff extra constitutionally, and then saying, well, but we take everyone's stuff.
And compared to every other field of the law, that's still a traceable and redressable injury. They're just like, yeah, but
yeah, they just really don't want to fucking go against the government on tax law that funds the court.
Yeah,
it's wild.
How do you feel about the legal fiction that the court is not the government? Like,
I don't know. I don't know how we get around that, because they very clearly are.
So much. Yeah, it's like they're very clearly on the same team. Like, and how to get around that.
There isn't a way. I think. There's no way around it in
blood sport.
It's just blood sport.
Yeah, I like that.
Wait, we have a kumite. Only if we get the '90s soundtrack right. Kumite. Work hard every night and day. Yeah, that song is so fucking good. By the way, oh shit, I'm gonna be doing karaoke soon. I might have to do that song. The fucking soundtrack to Bloodsport. Derek Nall says, Rackets, what do you think about Screwball whiskey, or do you not care for flavored whiskey? I do not care for flavored whiskeys in general. Peanut butter flavored whiskeys are hideous to me. I don't ever want them.
Screwball, yeah. Then.
That peanut butter, dude, I cannot do that.
With the sheep on it.
It's, yeah, ew.
The
Iceman.
That loved that stuff.
Legit question for Matt, not trying to drama fish, actually curious. How come you are not on mainstream GunTube like Demolition Ranch, Brandon Herrera, etc.? Not looking for any drama, no need to answer. Do you have a non-drama answer, or do you have a drama answer and you want to share it? I don't care, but
that doesn't seem like a very dramatic thing. I think the issue is I tell the truth.
And well, you made it dramatic just now.
Look, I think my brand is no bullshit. Here's what's actually going on. And that is fundamentally incompatible with clickbait culture.
With advertising.
Yeah, right? Dude, I see this so fucking much. It's one of the biggest problems in any of the current metas on social media is you either have if you want to go viral, everybody has to always be bad and everything has to always be unacceptable.
Right.
No matter if it is or not. You can never have a neutral or moderate opinion. Or if you do, it's like you have it, but the thumbnail and the title still has to be very extreme. And it's like, well, that gets really old.
Yeah. And so I'm friends with these people. I have most mainstream gun tubers, they have my phone number, I have their phone number. I like to make myself useful to other people, but I don't think that they see much reason to collaborate with me, because what would I do if they wanted to come on, make a episode being like, can you believe this, that the Supreme Court has
set the Second Amendment on fire. And then I'd be like, that actually didn't happen. This is like a weird, like preliminary order in a district court case, right? Like this.
Yeah.
Because that's how I would respond. And
so I don't watch GunTube content at
Good.
all. The main one I've talked to, I'm very friendly with him. I love Brandon Herrera. I think he's cool. I think he's great. I don't know that I haven't seen him like do that type of stuff. He mostly just talks about guns from what I see, more than talking about like law type stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe he does. I just literally don't watch any of it because I don't watch anything. Like these days, I have no fucking time to watch videos. And I literally, my own content is like all I have time to do on the internet right now. And I don't even have time for that. It's nuts. Yes, I hate it. Hello, darkness, my old friend. No, dude, it's getting so. Okay. You know what the real issue is, Matt? I'm old. You're 31. You have all this energy. I'm 42. My energy is dead.
God,
My energy is dead.
I'm not looking forward to 11 years from now because I already feel like shit.
Good. It's going to get worse. Worse. Actually, that's not true. Like, it's going to get awesome.
And the thing is, me and Ivan also have a, like, you know, because the Fuddbusters YouTube channel is like specific gun law information stuff. And my channel has grown really, really slowly. But it's been steady. The thing that makes me feel good though and gives me hope to keep going is that I have a disproportionate amount of people who actually like support me on Patreon and like send messages and send ideas and like and help out and there's been a few times I thought about quitting because I'm like, look, another fucking asshole like shit ass non-ranked law school graduate is gonna just lie about briefing schedules in gun cases and get hundreds of thousands of subs overnight. And look at me, I'm sitting here. I've been working my ass off on it for years, and I'm sitting at 50K subs. And then I find out that they have like 5 patrons, right? But my patrons are like, no, we support you because we actually want to know this information. And so then me and Ivan,
That's the difference, right? The difference in focus on content. Like you focus for this like broad, shallow audience or a narrow, deep audience. And guys, always go narrow, deep.
Yeah. But so now me and Ivan have started doing regular gun content. So we have another channel, Fuddbusters, where and here's the premise. It's unpaid, no bullshit gun reviews. Because if you go on YouTube to try to find gun reviews,
it's all either entirely, there was a video that recently broke down like how gun reviews on YouTube works, and like the initial reviews of something right when it comes out is all paid for, and maybe it's not paid for monetarily, but it'll be a thing where the company making the gun gives you the gun, an optic to put on it, and ammo. It gives these to these big YouTubers, and they're like, hey, you're going to sign this contract that says you get this for free, and then your video is going to be good and positive, or we're not going to do any more business with you.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's been
you don't even need to say that in the contract though.
Right.
That's just the journalistic reviewer access problem that's been brought up in video games and movie reviews. It's like, yeah, you're never required to say good things about a Marvel movie. Say bad things about a Marvel movie and see if you get a review copy next time. You won't. Like your business model gets shut down immediately.
And there's been notable instances, high profile ones even, of like these big gun tubers who get a gun from one of these companies and the gun doesn't work. The gun's really bad and they'll only have one magazine run through the gun successfully without a jam. And that's the only time in that video you see that gun run through a magazine, and every other one's like clipped and edited to make it seem like the gun's reliable or good. Multiple times this has happened, and there was one particularly infamous instance of this, but we sort of see this, and then the review will come out, right, and they just have glowing things to say about it. Then in their own discords they're like, no, the gun's a piece of shit, we couldn't get it to run, like it doesn't work at all. And so we sort of like saw this, like this is a trend that's existed for a long time, right? It existed before YouTube and before there were guns on YouTube, where like people would say like that good guns are bad or bad guns are good. And then like I guess I mentioned the other form of gun YouTube review content is it's stuff that's just like entirely swings the opposite direction. Where like somebody gets a gun and like forces it to do poorly just so they can have like the contrary opinion thing.
Right.
So we figured it would be interesting if we, because we have between us and our little buddy group, we've got access to like all of these sorts of popular guns or cool guns or niche interesting guns, like these things that are like very expensive and things people like sort of desire to own because there's cool YouTuber videos about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sort of just take the gun,
Shocking how that works.
we take the gun and we break it apart in sort of like a different perspective, because like you can get perspective like does this gun hold up to 10,000 million billion
Right.
rounds, but that's not what we're looking at. We're sort of looking at the guns, because we're both like gun design geeks. So we look at the gun from a design perspective. How's like, but what's the affordance of the design? Does it seem like the design makes sense? Is it easy for the end user to get around and operate? Then we sort of just sit there and pick the thing apart. And so we picked a couple of examples right off the bat that we knew didn't really exemplify this, where they're like, HK is famous for making guns that I don't think on their face are bad guns, but
Right.
then they charge you like $2,000-$3,000 for something that's high point quality.
Yeah.
So they there's like like the UMP, right? We haven't even done a video on the UMP yet, but the UMP is one of those guns where I always wanted one, and then I held one and I'm like, oh my god, this thing feels like it's made out of Happy Meal plastic.
Yeah.
People pay $3,000 for these. Like I can
But
see
then
it being like,
go online and try to find a negative word said about that gun.
nobody said,
Because, well, one, you'd be going against all of these main personalities or whatever, and then two, you'd have to be a person who has sufficient internal consistency to be able to put that amount of money out and then be self-critical for doing it, right?
Right.
And
So
that's
spend $3,000 on a gun and not have that be your whole personality, where
Yeah.
every one of the gun's flaws you'll make an excuse for. Like why is this gun that's made out of
You have to be a fucking Donald Trump tuber, right? Like that $3,000 has to be literally nothing to you.
And I mean, it can be something, but
Yeah.
the trouble is you have to be able to spend that $3,000 and then be critical of it. Like Matt and I are both GM car enthusiasts, right? So it comes with the territory that you can spend a lot of money on a GM car, but at the end of the day, it's still a GM car, and the wiring's still going to be bad, and all of the switches are gonna break. It's going to creak and rattle.
Yeah.
The little anything that's like a small electric servo motor, it will break. It's going to break. It always will.
The new
If it's got-
Corvette's a pretty
if-
fucking banger, though.
If it's got passive keyless entry, it will stop working. It will always stop working.
So these are all things that my Cadillac CTSV, which I love so much, all of them do. When I started, I have to grab the little nav thing and help it up. but I get that, and
you can love it. You can love it.
But
And
here's
loving
here's
bad
the
cars
biggest
and
thing.
guns is fine.
And here's what's different about our reviews. So the first time I went to SHOT Show and I was at the media day, I noticed this thing where I like saw people that I was familiar with their writing and their reviews, and I had respected them, and I see them at the firing line holding the gun like this, right, with their thumb crossed over, firing the one mag, and then the rep from the company hands them a thumb drive, and I'm like, the fuck? And so I go and I shoot it, and they hand me the thumb drive, and I go and put it in my laptop. It's a pre-written article. Like it has all the shit. And that's why they make all the same fucking points. And even they'll make the same errors. So our reviews are, we take a gun, no prep, and then it's just like, two firearm design nerds take it apart, look at it, and then shoot it a little bit and just give our opinions. And people, I tell you something, absolutely fucking hate what we're doing. Because
and part of the problem is like we are to some extent stacking the deck hard against these guns, because it's very easy for a gun to be bad. It's really easy for a gun to like trip the point of like, this isn't worth $1,500 or $2,000 or $3,000. It's very hard for a gun to be like, this is worth $500. Or especially like when you get to $3,000, it's really hard to have a gun be worth $3,000 when you can buy an AR for $500 that shoots rings around it.
Right, and that's why I think, God, we've gotten really down into the firearm specific rabbit hole. But I think a good review needs to have two parts. It's like, one, objectively, I have this firearm in a vacuum in a white room. Is this firearm good? And then you take a step back and say, would I buy this firearm? Right.
And the answers can be it ends from each other. I have such a hard time divorcing my analysis of a gun from like what it actually takes for you to get it, that it like invariably the well ends up being poisoned for me. Where
Oh, no, I have no issue with it because I spent I spent $7,000 on a rifle specifically with the intent of putting it head to head with a $200 rifle that I knew would absolutely eat its lunch, and telling the internet like how shitty it was. So like, but maybe I'm weird on that front. But but one example is the B&T APC 223. It's like it's a Swiss hype beast rifle, super well made and everything. I think that it is like objectively white room, excellent firearm. There's no fucking reason you should buy that gun. Like that gun is outstanding. Like everything about the way it feels, shoots, everything wonderful. It's $3,000. Buy like spend $500 on an AR.
$500 in an AR and $2,500 in ammo will like situate you so much better.
It's it is the weird thing, right? Like practicality, like is something good, great. Yeah, a fucking Bugatti Chiron is great. But like, are you going to drive that to work every day?
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the people who own one never drive them. So I'm very like toes in the car place because I'm not a car guy. I always loved fast cars. I always loved like sports cars, muscle cars. I thought they were cool when I was a kid. I got a Mustang GT 500, and I was like every other car, I'm like, I can't wait. What?
Nothing.
Did you call me gay?
Evan, did you say that?
Wait, did you hear that?
No, you can like call me like I'm fine with it. Call me gay. Anyway, so it's I like every other car because I'm not a car guy, right? Like I'm not gonna go and be like, wow, let me tune up this carburetor, whatever it is. I'm gonna pay someone to do it.
Shut up, you bitch.
I'm like a piece of shit. I don't want to learn about fixing a car. So like I just want the car to go fast. Like that's what I want it to do. Because I'm like,
can't help but tell on himself.
Do you hire somebody else to piss through your cock or something?
No. Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, bro.
No, I hired them to pee into my vagina so I can just pour it out. Because pee's stored in the balls. I don't have balls, so I need someone with balls to pee in my vagina. So then I can sit on the toilet and pretend to be a woman at least.
Whoa. You're gonna be no, but I get the point you're making makes sense. It's just you're making it to two GM guys, and part of being a GM guy means that like,
dude, I would have bought one of the fucking Corvettes.
Stop! Not a C8, not a new one. No,
C8, yeah.
You know what?
The C8s are really fucking cool, man.
You know when they stopped making good Corvettes? 1989. That was the last good Corvette they ever made.
I like the C6.
The C8 is a fucking monster.
To hot rod, it's cool. No, the C8's stupid.
The Z06 C8 is a fucking monster.
Horrible.
There's no way.
Why is the engine wrong?
And also, why doesn't it have a real transmission?
You know, Corvettes have been mid-engine since the C4. Fun fact.
I hate you guys.
Technically,
okay, anyway, so I'm trying to make a different point. No, so tipping the toes in though. So like, you buy this car, and where the fuck was I going with this? God, oh yeah.
And then you have a guy piss through your cock.
Yeah, that's true. That's all true. That's not even part of the point. That's just my backstory.
Yeah.
But no, the real thing is you go and I'm like with every other car you buy, like every practical car that I buy, because I'm not a car guy. I'm like, well, I want the warranty. Like I want the warranty to fix everything all the time because I never want to fix anything. I don't have time. I don't have patience. If the car doesn't work, I will throw it in a garbage can. Like I will hire someone to pick it up and put it in a garbage can. I'm not going to do it because I have
got
arms.
a guy for everything.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm a YouTuber. I don't have time to do anything. I got noodle arms. Matt, look at these. They can't pick up a car. Anyway, you wouldn't download a car. It's like I would download a fuck.
I would totally download a car.
That's the weirdest argument. No, anyway, so like if I'm buying a car in general, I'm like, well, I want a warranty that'll do all the work for me as long as I'm going to have this car. So I asked them that on the Mustang, and they're like, warranty? And I'm like, yeah. And like, well, people don't usually buy those on these because they don't drive them very much. I'm like, what do you mean they don't drive them? I'm gonna drive this thing all the fucking time, like as much as possible. And they're like, let me see what we can do. And they come back, they're like, here's like it's like a 30,000 mile warranty. Like, wait, what? Like they just get really expensive past that. And they did. It was absurd how expensive they got past that because no one drives these fucking cars, right? Like they get them and they just put them in a garage. And it's weird because like when people get higher end cars, it's usually some sort of retarded collector. And I don't trust them.
Yeah.
But that's the gun thing too. It's like, well, you get this thing, but you're not going to use it. It's just your dog's fucking levitating upside down.
She's got a jetpack.
Is David Blaine in your house?
No, just the jetpack dog.
Was David Blaine in your house before that magic trick and then he also vanished? No, but that's the weird thing about it is like, it's what you were saying though. Like there's the practicality aspect. Like really you should just buy a Toyota Corolla because it's going to run forever or whatever. Not really.
GMT 400. GMT 400.
It's a GMT 400. What's that?
The longest running, most dependable truck ever made. It's the racist Chevy truck.
Oh, that's good. Was that the one they used on Emmett Till?
I don't know, but it's definitely the truck you see the most of when you go into the trailer park.
Oh, so it is. Yeah. Okay. So it is the Emmett Till truck.
Wait, hold on.
Phil T. Kuntz says Fuddbusters is gay. Mossberg 500 Tacticals rule.
Okay, bitch.
What do you have to say for yourself? I trust the chat more because he gave me money and you didn't.
How much do I have to pay you to agree with me?
I almost bought a pistol.
He only paid me $2, so it's really not that high of a price. I'm kind of a cheap whore.
I got it. Yeah.
Artyom 4774 says, "Hey Matt, are you familiar with Rob Ski from AK Operators Union on YouTube?"
Yeah.
I would argue he's the original AK guy. His content is highly underrated. He is the most famous for doing the 5,000 round torture test on AKs.
Yeah. I don't really like watch that stuff.
See, because you know, like you're going to talk about it, so you don't need to watch somebody else.
Well, it's more like, God, how I've locked myself in. I'm going to sound like a fucking asshole.
You are an asshole. We know that.
It's like I know more than him. I don't, I mean, I haven't, but you watch stuff like that, right?
I've watched a fair amount of AKOU. I think he's pretty good. I think it's again. I'm not going to. He's a lot less of a sellout than most big gun tubers, but there was a point when Robski was like, "Never buy an AK made in the United States. It's a horrible idea. It never makes sense."
Right.
And along the way, he shifted to like doing reviews of these guns where they'd fail, to doing reviews of these guns where they'd fail, and he'd be like, "Oh, these companies, I'm working with them to find out what breaks." Like they've outsourced their testing to him, which I don't hate from a standpoint of like he's built a brand around it, so that's kind of cool. But I do kind of dislike from a standpoint of eventually he's legitimizing the existence of like crappy AK clones when in reality, like these are always going to be worse than a Wasser, and you can just go out and buy a Wasser. And he does articulate really well that, well, the reason he's doing this is because eventually, right, Kamala Harris will be the arch dictator of the United States, and she will ban the importation of all guns, and you won't be able to buy a good AK anymore.
Right.
And that eventually US AKs is all we'll have.
For context, what Ivan's describing is, and there's a huge rift in AK ownership, and we're actually both AK snobs too. Most of the AKs that you see on the market right now are US made, and they're pure dog shit. Wassers are it's a Romanian import semi-automatic AK, and it's like the cheapest East European, OG
Good
style AK you can get. And they're price comparable to the US made guns. So it's basically pretty fucking stupid to buy a US AK still. But I will say that what I really like about Robski is that he's actually putting a substantial number of rounds through the guns that he's talking about. And that is like, and I'm now remembering And it's not that I don't watch any gun tubers. I do. It's that I can't remember fucking anything. I am remembering that his are the ones that really stuck with me where I like, I forgot what video he did, but he did a video that like showed when certain parts like would fail.
Yeah.
And I really like that. That was I think I agree, underrated and stuff like that. Like, not to subscribe to a labor theory of value, but people like sit there and put a lot of time and money into these productions to actually shoot their guns.
Yes.
And it kind of pisses me off that they will get so much less views than
somebody who's just doing like Zoomer bait where it's like,
oh, Call of Duty gun.
Yeah, or like there's
30
titties
minutes.
jiggling while the gun is going off.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, those videos have their place.
Yeah, in the garbage bin. And the garbage in the garbage
On your
bin.
Instagram reel, which is a garbage bin, but it's a garbage bin of a particular utility.
I fucking hate it so much.
The garbage bin for people whose
You
IQs
hate
are
jiggling
room
tits while
temperature.
shooting guns?
Yes,
Why?
bro.
It's degrading.
Okay, no, hold on. Yeah, it's degrading. It's fucking degrading.
Yes.
Two guns. And
to guns.
yeah. And like
And a woman can wield
do you-
this? This is terrible.
Do you like chocolate?
Like, it's fine.
What's your favorite
Oh my
dessert food?
God.
What's your favorite dessert food?
I'm not a big apple pie. I'm not a big
Apple
dessert
pie.
guy.
Love apple pie, right?
I love apple
Your
pie.
favorite
Yeah.
steak.
Wait,
Favorite
what?
meat. Your favorite type of meat.
My favorite type of meat. Like my
Yeah.
favorite. Well, it's gonna be beef, I guess.
So a nice
Okay, a beef
steak.
short rib.
Beef short rib. All right, so you must love beef short rib apple pie.
Well, maybe.
No.
No.
Damn it! I
No.
should have said a like pulled pork apple pie was probably fucking delicious.
Well, yeah,
actually.
but you didn't say that because you were being
God damn it!
honest.
No, you tricked me.
I did.
I was trying to beat your analogy.
Yeah, I know. And
Okay, here we go. Bad Dragonite. Hey, Fudd, being from Florida, ever heard of the ex-con man / YouTuber Matthew Cox? Really interesting guy with interesting stories.
Nope. The View, Ivan?
I have no idea.
I don't. There's been like 3 that have shown up in my YouTube Shorts reel that I doom scroll recently. I don't really tell them apart though, because that's the problem with YouTube Shorts. Is it's just like I recognize their face and not their name.
Yeah, the Reels content is always bullshit. Like, people on TikTok will have like 10 million subscribers, but no one will know who they are because they just like rack up subscribers from one video that goes viral, and then nothing else they ever do is important. It's weird. And the same with YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. It's a wild business model, but the platforms love it because they don't pay people anything. It's great. He also says, for example, Matthew Cox's prison lawyer was locked up for literally trying to take over the world because he says it's God's plan for him to be emperor.
I
He
might like
sounds like a fun guy.
Yeah.
Cool. Runkle the Bailey. What about the case of Mark Jerome Johnson Blount? I don't know who that is.
I
I don't know who that is.
Shit. Kate C, aka Snake Plush Kitten. Rudy Giuliani was fined 148 million. If it had been 148 million plus $1, then would it be cruel? Then it would be cruel and unusual punishment. To be clear, Rudy was not fined 148 million. He lost 148 million civil damages judgment that will likely be appealed as being an unreasonable award. The people who he allegedly ruined the reputation of would never in their life make anywhere near $148 million. And it would not take $148 million to repair the reputations that they didn't have. But hey, the court system is fucked on politics. So that's a thing. But no, it would still not be cruel and unusual punishment because it's civil damages. And
Yeah, it doesn't work. out.
yeah. PSI, I've applied to law schools and I'm waiting for word where I'll be going next year. Any advice going into the legal field?
Don't.
Thinking transactional law or patent, have a background in chemistry.
Do
Patent law can
something
be
fun with the chemistry. Make pipe bombs.
patent law. You can make a lot of money doing patent law because you have a degree in chemistry and everybody else is retarded.
Yeah, no, that's the funny thing is like, it's like, okay, if you actually are going the law route and you do have a STEM background, that's like a weird cheat code because they don't tell you that there's this like bizarre, it's like a
It's
Sierra
exclusive
adventure
club.
game where
Yeah.
there's like,
It's King's Quest 9 Lost.
It is, yeah, it's King's Quest where you're just like, oh boy, now I want to do this next quest where I do patent law, and they're like, did you get this one item way early on in your playthrough?
Nope.
No. Okay, well you can't. You're fucked.
That was when games were fucking cool.
Yeah, you just straight can't practice.
That's right. So wait, so like 30 hours of video gaming is down the tube. Yep. Oh.
Yep. Go fuck
No,
yourself. Except this time it's 30 years of your idiot life.
Dude, the advice going into the legal, literally, transactional law. No. Transactional law, dude. You're gonna work for a firm. You're gonna make no fucking money because you're transactional law. You're at a low hourly rate, just hammering out contracts and shit. The people who are going to make the money in transactional law are the whales and the rainmaker. The rainmakers bringing in the whales. The people bringing the clients are going to make the money. You're going to do the grunt work. It's not going to be great or fulfilling. You want to do patent law? That's your avenue. Use your chemistry degree. Do patent law. Make a shitload of money. Like, just fucking do it and help people. And before you get all moral fagging on me, like, just realize that you are helping someone bring their goddamn dream to life that they've worked on their entire time. And it is definitely worth the $20,000 you're going to charge them for that patent application, even when their dream fails. It is worth it because that is their dream and you're helping them. Don't be gay about it.
It's worth it because they're trying to arbitrarily prevent other people from making progress. So that's why they're going to pay you $20,000 for you to help them invoke the state to protect your stupid fucing idea.
Because if they do it, they're dumb and they'll do it wrong.
I miss the well, you know, not to sound like a conservative, but the country that viewed the patent system as a national embarrassment that was necessary to pursue the arts and sciences, that would only have to be around for maybe 100 years or so, and yet here we are
forever.
Yeah,
well, because someone figured out they can make money doing it.
Patents are more or less dead, except for in like bullshit little like Tweedledee arenas where
I combine
two
somewhat patented things, and then I'm going to make it blue so it reflects the sunlight better. I can get a patent for this, right? And the patent office will be like, yeah.
The only reason patents matter is because Google and Amazon exist and could be like, yeah, we'll make toilets. This guy wrote about it on a text, and we intercepted it in the course of business. It's a pretty fucking good idea. So now we're gonna make toilets. No, we came up with this on our own. No, you didn't, you assholes. That's why patents, dude. Patent law. I promise you, though, like in a non-ironic sense, they are trying to bring their dream to life. When you help someone do it and they make a business out of it and they make millions and millions of dollars, and you took a huge fee from them at the start that seems unreasonable, but they have a helicopter land their yacht in your yard to tell you about how much success they had, you'll feel really great about it. You won't feel great about transactional law ever. You'll only feel great about transactional law if you become a gun tuber and put a bullet in your mouth. Dixie Rose, welcome to Paralegal. Thank you. Inshallah says, did Fudd find out what happened to his stolen house?
No.
You never found out?
I mean, it got stolen. Like, what do you think? Oh, what do you think? The cops are going to actually investigate it?
I don't know. It's like a house.
I mean, it probably, like, I entertained like the idea of going to the scrapyard because it must have been scrapped. It must have been because they didn't take all of the support beams. So I'm sure it just got turned into, a couple grand in steel, which is so great. But yeah, no, I still don't know what happened to my house.
It's too bad. Nina Infinity, what's up, Nina? Happy birthday, Nick. Thanks. Give yourself a toast, you narcissistic gay bastard. Also, I heard yours and Camelot's sex tape leak from the Senate House hearing room. Damn, dude. Seriously, love you, bro. Hope you have a fantastic day. The main thing I think that people need to take away from that the Senate House or the Senate hearing room that was definitely me and Camelot is that when you look at that video, you notice one thing. Camelot's shoulders aren't as wide as you think when you look at him from behind because he's the bottom. That was the joke. He's the bottom.
Yeah, I get it.
Because he's gay. I'm not gay because I'm a power top.
That's fair.
That's not gay. That's just dominance.
Yeah.
A cheers to me. The most the most humble narcissist on the fucking planet, who has never in his life thought of himself as more than terrible. But I am old, so that's something. Cheers.
Santé.
Runkle says I'd be down to come on and explain Canadian gun laws, though it is legitimately awful. Oh God,
Hi,
Runkle,
Runkle.
I love you. Not tonight. We should talk Canadian gun laws sometime soon and everything else like Elvin lore. Pony Up
Whoa.
says, wait, what?
They just said, "Whoa."
Oh, Pony Up says that's what they get for using a Mad Catz controller. Also, shots fired at armed scholars. Lol. Oh yeah, the Mad Catz controller in the fucking sub.
Yeah.
Dude, I wouldn't use that for Halo. Matthew Self, everyone on the panel, rank your top 3 genuine gun tubers, minus Brandon Herrera and Donut Operator. Dude, I don't know any of them.
Oh, that's hard.
I don't know any of them.
You know what? I'll do Hop. I'll do Hop because his content's entertaining, and while it can be a little dry, he's at least like outwardly honest, and then you can tell that that's more than just surface level. I may throw Robski in there, even though his more recent stuff has been like once he stopped doing the endurance testing, it started becoming other stuff. It became a little bit more dry, harder to watch. I don't know about the third one.
See an Arsenal.
See, like, is he mainstream GunTube though? Because I would put him on. I'd put him on a whole different pedestal. I'm going to include him because like he's like his own category of greatness. Like whatever you think Forgotten Weapons is, See an Arsenal is actually. It's so good.
He doesn't. So yeah, mine would be See an Arsenal. Is one, he's a really, really good friend of mine, but two, he puts in a retarded amount of work to actually not lie.
Just joking. Sorry, being an asshole.
What?
When you said he puts in a retarded amount of work, I just said dumb.
You can just make it up.
I'm just joking, though. I'm just being an asshole.
No. But he gets all the information right, and it's deep. So he's awesome. Then the second one would be Fuddbusters, and then the third one would be Fuddblasters.
That's good.
I like it. I literally know zero. Fuddbusters is my number one. I don't know anybody. Like, I don't know anybody. Like, I know Brandon Herrera. I don't consider Donut Operator a gun tuber.
No.
He's a cop tuber.
He's a cop.
I fucking hate cops.
You know what the problem with them is? They think that eventually they can take that uniform off.
Look, I'll say this. As a person, I like Donut. I think I've talked to him. We actually recorded a show. It was never uploaded, but we had a good time, and he seems really cool. And I'd love to do something with him in the future. That being said, though, he apologizes for cops like a little bit more than I'm comfortable with in general. And I get it. He was one. And he has that perspective, but like. When you get to be a lawyer and you care about the 4th and 5th and 6th Amendments, like you start to really, really see just how fucked the cop situation is in the U.S.
Yeah. And especially when you get to see that, like, the human beings that are the victims of this fraternal bullshit culture that they have. It's like, it's way more fucked up than you think. And, you know, a lot of people might be thinking that I'm a liberal. It's like, oh
no,
they won't care. They won't care what your political leanings are if they just decide it's going to be you today.
Do you see what's going on in Hawaii?
No, I don't care about other countries.
Well, it's not just Hawaii; it's also Colorado.
It's the same.
They're the only places where the investigations have occurred. It's actually in all 50 states. But here's what's happening: DUI checkpoints are federally funded by federal departments that are not law enforcement departments. They're motivated departments in other areas. So state cops are being paid overtime by federal entities to do DUI checkpoints. And the overtime amounts, obviously they want, because cops get double time overtime. This is how they really make a shitload of money, because when a cop does an arrest at like midnight at the end of their shift, they're going to drag that shit out till 5, 6 in the morning and make a fucking fortune.
Right.
This dude was just arrested in Hawaii for a DUI checkpoint. drunk driving. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. He was not intoxicated. He does nothing at all. But they arrested him. And while driving him to the station for booking, cop turns off his camera and says, yeah, don't just don't consent to any more testing. When you get to the station, it'll make things faster. Turns his camera back on. Of course, the guy gets to the station, doesn't consent, which means in Hawaii, an automatic revocation of his license, a huge fine, but he goes home rather than getting booked. And so then, he has this thing. Then he hires a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, oh, you fucked yourself, bro. Like, why did you do that? And he's like, I don't even drink. And the cops had no basis to arrest this guy. Passed his field sobriety tests. Like, he's fine. He's not drunk. And this is the thing. They get paid overtime by federal agencies based on arrest numbers. Like the journalist thing, it's an implied result. If your arrest numbers don't go up, maybe you're not on next shift for the DUI checkpoint. So this shit's going on. Guys, you cannot trust your law enforcement on this stuff because they're literally arresting people, overtly arresting multiple people. As they started investigating this guy's story, they found this happens a lot. And you never hear about it. You know why? Because the DA just dismisses the charges when they find out they don't have any fucking evidence to sustain the charge. So they dismiss them. But you never hear about a dismissed charge because it costs a shitload to do in 1983.
Right.
1980. And by the way, 1983s have one big problem. Qualified immunity means that any discretionary decision by a cop that isn't overtly violating your a constitutional right that has a history.
Yeah, that literally another cop exactly behaved in the same bizarre way before.
Prior to the creation of qualified immunity as a doctrine.
Right.
Because that's what has to happen. So prior to the creation of qualified immunity, some other cop has to have exactly violated someone's rights in the same way, which means that when a cop arrests you for impaired driving, which does not require you to fail a field sobriety test and does not require you to fail a field breathalyzer test, when they make that arrest and they infringe your rights and they take you to the station, they have the discretionary authority to do so because you crossed a fog line or something. And they say, well, he didn't test right, but I have a hunch that he might have been impaired. They make the arrest. That's discretionary. They've probably got qualified immunity. So you take a 1983 claim, you're going to pay $15,000, $20,000 for a lawyer to bring federal court against your local cop, who, by the way, might pull you over tomorrow. And then you lose.
Right.
It's a great system.
Qualified immunity is the dumbest shit. Like, I hate it. I hate everything. Alex, come here. The dogs are threatening each other.
Okay, here we go. A couple more. We're about to get off of YouTube and get onto Rumble exclusively, and then we'll go for a little bit longer. Or I will, or whoever.
Yeah, I'm allowed to touch guns on there.
Hop says, big ups to the Fuddbusters. You guys are a credit to the community. Thank you.
Whoa.
Was that Hop?
That was Hop.
Yeah, we like Hop.
With elite donation, $13.37. Thank you.
Whoa,
that's mass. Do you think video gamer? What's your favorite racial slur, Mr.
Yeah.
What is your favorite racial slur?
Say your favorite gamer word.
We're on Rumble. I'm going to ask you guys your favorite racial slur. Pony Up says, GM fags have to know how to fix cars. Oh shit. That's a call out on you guys. Pony Up says, a degree in chemistry. What is his profession? A fucking alchemist? No, alchemists aren't chemists. Alchemy is not chemistry.
It actually is. It actually is.
No,
they don't want you to know this, but it is.
Low Watermark gifted 50 memberships. Holy shit. I just came. Thanks. All right. We're going to get off of YouTube in just a second. We're going to go to Rumble exclusive, but I have to do one thing because this show does have a sponsor, and that is Field of Greens. Field of Greens. And guys, I don't do this normally. I normally just do my own bit on them, but they gave me a special holiday script, so I'm going to read it. I'm going to read, because if someone tells me exactly what to say and they're like, well, we're going to do, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to read exactly what they want me to say. So here we go. Here's a good ad copy from Field of Greens. The apples in your holiday pie taste amazing. But it's not exactly the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Oh, here we go. They've related it now. The Mayo Clinic says if you want to help prevent heart disease, lower blood pressure, and cholesterol. Eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, which is almost impossible. Who could eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables? I have no idea. That's why you need to check out Field of Greens. Every fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was medically selected by doctors to support your vital organs like heart, lungs, kidneys, and immune system. The holidays are here and you need to stay healthy. Plus, you'll notice your skin, hair, and nails will look healthier too. Perfect for Buffalo Bill. Field of Greens is the simplest way to get those daily fruits and veggies, and it tastes amazing. Let me get you started with 15% off your first order. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use promo code NOSE. That's promo code NOSE at fieldofgreens.com, fieldofgreens.com. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease except all of them. Dude, I love when these come. I'm like, just don't ever tell me what to say. Like, please don't tell me what to say. I like Field of Greens. Like, I like it. It's actually good. I like the thing. Don't tell me how to sell. Just please let me tell people that I like it and where to buy it. And then they'll probably buy it. Like, that'll be the thing. But if you tell me what to say and I'll do it, I'll read your ad. I thought that ad was garbage.
Ivan and I have a similar thing on our podcast. There was this one sponsor that, but they sent a script, and I just told them, I was like, all right, they sent me a script. I'm gonna very transparently be reading a script. I want you to just talk over me the whole time. And so I was just humdrum reading the script like this. And he talked over me the whole time, and bro, people went fucking ballistic. We unintentionally actually drove traffic to that one.
Yeah. Look, I like Field of Greens. They have never asked me to do anything. It's a holiday read, so they're like, oh, we got this holiday thing. Guys, buy
That
Field of
read
Greens.
did suck, by the way.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
The read was awful. Look, guys, here's why you buy Field of Greens. It's powder that you don't snort.
I don't want that.
Don't snort it because you don't want to snort apples and shit. That's gay. You pour it in vodka and lemonade or vodka and water or something like that, and then you just drink it, and suddenly it's like you ate fruits and vegetables. That's cool because eating fruits and vegetables also gay. Why? 90% of them are phallic. Why would you do that? I'm going to put a long cylindrical thing in my mouth. No, don't do that. Don't do that at all.
Isn't it literally a plant genital?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do it. Yeah. Yes, it's penetrating the earth too. Like if it's a root vegetable, it's like, can you imagine being a carrot constantly soaking? Like a Mormon in college. I'm skipping all my classes. I'm staying in this hope forever. All right. Guys, we are off of YouTube in 25 seconds. I'm going to play a little stinger. We're going to go to Rumble exclusively. I'm going to ask these discerning gentlemen what their favorite racial slurs are and more. We're not going to go too much longer. It is my birthday. I do want to get to bed at some point because I'm now an old man. My hips are both broken. But that's from all the gay sex. All right, we'll see you over there.
Okay.
Have a good night, guys. Peace. Peace.